Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
Have you ever stood face to face with pure disrespect, feeling every nerve in your body urging you to strike back? What if the most powerful response you could give wasn't a single word? The truth is, silence, when used with wisdom, can speak louder than any voice. There comes a moment when you're staring down rudeness, and everything inside you wants to fight. You feel the heat rising, your pride aching, and your tongue itching to deliver words that could cut deep. But in that instant, you must understand, silence can be a sharper weapon than anything you say. You don't always need to speak for someone to feel the weight of their actions. When a rude person disrespects you, especially someone close like family, the enemy wants you to react. He wants to drag you into a battlefield where anger is your language and bitterness your legacy. But you must rise above it. Choose stillness when your spirit longs to storm, because righteous silence can accomplish what shouting never will. It unsettles. It convicts. It speaks to the soul. There's a power in knowing who you are. When you know your worth. When you know the God who made you didn't create you to be anyone's doormat. You don't feel the urge to scream or prove yourself to those who refuse to see you clearly. You stand firm. You breathe. And your silence declares, I am not what you think. I am who God says I am. Yes, it's harder when the wound comes from those you love. Strangers can be ignored, but family can cut deep. Still, don't give them the reaction they seek. Silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. And wisdom will carry you further than retaliation ever could. Remember, there's a reason Jesus stood silent before Pilate. A reason he didn't fight back when mocked, spit on, and humiliated. He knew who he was. He didn't seek approval or defend his position. He stood on truth, and truth doesn't beg to be believed. That same strength, that same spirit, lives in you when you are insulted, mocked, or belittled. Don't rush to speak. Be quick to discern. Be quick to pause. And be quick to ask yourself, is this worth my peace? If they truly wanted to understand you, they would have asked. If they truly wanted to love you, they would have listened. So when they choose disrespect, let them sit in the silence that follows. Let them feel the absence of your energy, talking only to their own echoes. While they do that, you keep walking, keep living, keep building. Nothing shakes a person more than realizing they no longer have the power to disturb your peace. People will try to provoke you because they are not at peace within themselves. Don't let their storm into your home. Don't let their noise become your soundtrack. You may feel tempted to put them in their place, but there's no better place than outside the boundaries of your heart. Silence doesn't mean you ignore what was said. It means you've decided their words aren't worth anchoring your spirit to. That's true power. And yes, even when it's family, especially when it's family, because some people use your love as permission to mistreat you. You can love them and still create distance. You can forgive them and still say nothing. You can honor your parents, your siblings, your relatives, and still protect your peace if they continually bring chaos. You are not called to carry emotional abuse disguised as tradition. You are called to walk in truth, grace, and freedom. Some of you are waiting for an apology that may never come. And that's okay. You don't need their apology to heal. You need peace. You need to let God be your defender, your shield. Don't lower yourself just to feel seen. Let them wonder why you stayed quiet, why you didn't flinch, why you didn't fire back. Let them feel the regret in your absence and the echo of your stillness. And when they return, and some will, you won't need to say, I told you so. You won't need to prove anything. You'll be standing in peace, clothed in dignity, unshaken, because silence, when rooted in strength and guided by God, always speaks louder than prideful words ever could. Let your silence remind them they mishandled someone who knew how to remain calm when they were out of control. There's a power that doesn't shout, a strength that doesn't need to flex to prove it exists. When someone disrespects you, raising their voice, throwing words like stones, or trying to humiliate you, there's one thing that will outweigh any argument. Respect. Not the kind you demand from them, but the kind you give yourself. When you respect yourself loudly enough, you don't need to say much. Your presence, your posture, your poise, and your refusal to entertain immaturity speak louder than insults ever could. Some expect you to explode. They expect you to react. But when you hold your ground with grace, Remaining still while they act small, it unsettles them. It forces them to see their own behavior for what it is. Because when you don't match the energy of disrespect, when you refuse to shrink under belittlement, you rise. And when you rise, you make them confront their own insecurity. People who go out of their way to be rude often speak from a place of inner chaos. They don't feel in control, so they try to control you. But when you respect yourself, knowing what you carry and who you belong to, you refuse to let broken people write your value. They might accuse you of thinking you're better than them, but the truth is, you're simply unwilling to stoop any lower. You're not here to argue with those committed to misunderstanding you. You won't waste energy defending yourself to someone who's already cast you as the villain in their own story. Sometimes the best thing you can say is, "That's not how I allow people to speak to me." Calm, clear, no yelling, no threats, just truth. And then you walk away. Not out of weakness, but because there's nothing holy about staying where you're not honored. You're not chasing their approval or begging for their apology. You're reminding them, and yourself, what respect looks like. There's a divine dignity that comes from knowing your worth. It's a dignity that doesn't need to announce itself. It simply walks into a room and makes others adjust. That's the power of living from the inside out, with confidence rooted in your true identity, not your job, not your status, not your social circle. Many people may like you, but your confidence rests in the unshakable truth that God made you with purpose, on purpose and for a purpose. You don't need anyone's permission to walk in that. You don't need the approval of the rude uncle, the jealous cousin, the bitter coworker, or the former friend who forgot how to be one. When they come at you sideways, throw shade, or try to embarrass you in front of others, remember who you are. When you speak from that place, your words won't sound like revenge, they'll sound like boundaries. And boundaries are a form of love. Love for them and love for yourself. I know it hurts when it's people you once trusted, when they twist your kindness into weakness. But let them misunderstand. Let them mislabel you. Let them call you arrogant for refusing to be walked over. You're not responsible for how they receive your growth, only for how you carry it. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for respecting yourself, even if it's family, even if it's someone who raised you. Just because someone helped bring you into this world doesn't give them the right to tear down your soul. You can honor them without allowing dishonor in return. You can love them from a place of safety. You can say, "This is the version of me that no longer tolerates disrespect, and I wish you could meet them without feeling threatened by their strength." The truth is, your growth will expose wounds some people never healed from. They'll react. They'll try to pull you back into old habits, old arguments, old conversations. But you're not going back. You've come too far to return to proving yourself to people who can't even see themselves clearly. So let your walk speak. Let your life be louder than your lips. When they try to provoke you, you won't need to scream. You'll simply stand, and that will be enough. You don't owe anyone a breakdown to prove your love. You don't owe anyone your silence when truth needs to be spoken. And you certainly don't owe anyone access to your peace if they keep choosing chaos. The best thing you can do is keep. Respect yourself so deeply that people either rise to meet you or fall away on their own. And if they choose to walk because you finally stood up for yourself, let them go. You didn't lose anything. You gained yourself. There's a common misunderstanding that kindness equals weakness, that extending grace means you're easy to walk over, or that not retaliating means you don't know how to defend yourself. But here's the truth. Kindness is not weakness. Kindness is strength under control. And control is not silence out of fear. It's silence born from the wisdom to choose your battles. When someone disrespects you, especially someone close like family, your first instinct may be to lash out, to defend your honor, to throw back words as sharp as theirs. But the spirit within you whispers something different. Stay calm. Stay steady. Let me handle this. The strength God gives isn't noisy or reckless. It's not about proving you're right. It's about being right, even when the world expects you to be wrong. There's power in looking someone in the eye, someone who just disrespected you, and saying, not with rage or sarcasm, but with calm truth, "I don't allow anyone to speak to me like that. Not even family." Those words carry weight because they come from identity, not anger. They declare, "I know who I am, and I know what I deserve." This is beneath both. You're not prideful for setting boundaries. You're not arrogant for refusing to let someone dump their dysfunction on your peace. You're not wrong for protecting your spirit. The enemy would love you to believe that keeping peace means letting people trample your soul. But peace is not the absence of conflict. It's the presence of truth in the middle of it. Kindness without boundaries isn't kindness. It's self-neglect. God never called you to destroy yourself to keep others comfortable. He never told you to accept curses, humiliation, or disrespect just to maintain the illusion of unity. There comes a time when you must speak, not to fight, but to declare, this behavior stops here. And yes, it's harder when it's someone you love. It hurts when disrespect comes from the same mouth that once praised you, the same hands that once held you. But that's why it takes far more strength to be kind than to be cruel. Anyone can explode. Anyone can cut with words. But it takes the Spirit of God to stand still, speak gently, and correct firmly without crushing. That's real maturity. That's real power. Some will mistake your silence for approval, others your mercy for submission. But in time, they'll see the truth, because there will come a moment when you stand, not with yelling or rage, but with truth. And when that moment comes, they'll realize you were never afraid. You were giving them a chance to see their error before you closed the door. You can forgive and still say, you don't get to talk to me like that again. You can love deeply and still declare, this behavior cannot continue. That's not bitterness, it's clarity. It's you saying, I'm not shrinking to make you feel bigger. It's choosing your mental, emotional, and spiritual health over being liked, accepted, or silent to keep a false peace. If they get upset, let them. If they call you cold or distant, let them, because only those who thrived on your silence will be threatened by your voice. Only those who grew comfortable dishonoring you will feel uneasy when you honor yourself. Kindness rooted in truth will always win. At first, it may not look like victory. It may look like distance or losing people, but what you gain is worth far more. Peace, clarity, integrity. And if their heart softens, they'll remember how you responded, not with hate or revenge, but with grace, boundaries, and dignity. Some of the strongest words you'll ever speak will be said calmly. Some of the most powerful moments will happen in silence, followed by one clear sentence that draws a line in love. If they cross it again, you don't yell, you walk away. That's what people of strength do. They don't stay where they're disrespected to prove they can endure it. They leave to prove they love themselves enough not to. So when someone comes at you sideways, with sharp words and a foul tone, respond with the strength of grace. Don't meet fire with fire. Meet it with water, with wisdom, and with the authority to say, that won't work on me anymore. And walk away with peace still in your hands. Some people will test you, not because they seek truth, but because they want control. They'll say things just to provoke you, poke at your wounds, bring up your past, and question your worth. Not out of care, but out of pride. When you don't react as they expect, when you stay grounded and calm, it confuses them. They're not used to peace that doesn't perform, to someone who can see through the noise and remain steady. The enemy works through distraction, pulling you into endless defense, correcting lies, answering insults, and trying to prove your heart to those who've already judged you. That's how he drains your energy and steals your joy. But when you realize not every comment deserves a comeback and not every insult deserves your attention, you begin to walk differently. You stop reacting and you start responding. And sometimes, the best response is none at all. This isn't passive silence, it's powerful silence. It's the stillness of someone no longer available for emotional manipulation. Someone who's grown past the need to win every argument. Someone anchored in God's approval and free from the need for man's applause. That kind of silence speaks volumes. It says, I don't need to explain myself to those committed to misunderstanding me. Some people are addicted to chaos. If they can't find peace, they'll try to destroy yours. And if you're not careful, you'll be dragged into battles God never called you to fight, defending yourself to people who don't value truth. That's not your assignment. That's not your responsibility. Your role is to walk in truth, even when it's quiet. Your role is to protect your peace, even if it costs you people. There's a unique strength in refusing to engage. When someone tries to bait you into a fight and you simply say, I'm not going to have this conversation with you. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise. Not because you're avoiding conflict, but because you know where that road leads, and you've walked away from that kind of mess before. You're not going back. People may say you've changed, let them. That's what growth looks like. Choosing your response instead of being controlled by their disrespect. It's sitting in a room with someone who hurt you and realizing you no longer feel the need to retaliate. That's healing. That's maturity. That's God working in your heart. Strength isn't always about standing tall and declaring, "You won't disrespect me." Sometimes it's about sitting still and letting your peace be the loudest thing in the room. When you stop chasing their approval, they're left to sit with their own behavior. And conviction comes, not from your words, but from your restraint. Your silence becomes a mirror, and they have no choice but to see what they've become. That's not to say you should always stay quiet. There are times when you must speak, but when you do, it comes from authority, not insecurity. From confidence, not chaos. You say what needs to be said once, and then let it go. You're not trying to win them over. You're staying aligned with your purpose. You have too much to do, too many people to bless, too much ground to cover to let a disrespectful spirit derail your day. Let the immature talk. Let them gossip. Let them twist your name and misinterpret your silence. That's not your burden. God knows your heart. He sees the truth. And in time, so will others. You don't have to defend your reputation when your character is consistent. Just keep showing up with love. Keep walking in integrity. Let the fruit of your life speak louder than the rumors. Because here's the truth. When you remain silent in the face of provocation, you're not losing the battle. You're rising above it. You're not avoiding conflict. You're commanding peace. And the people who matter, the ones God has truly placed in your life, will see it. They'll recognize your silence not as surrender, but as wisdom. Not as fear, but as self-control. And that will speak louder than anything you could ever say. So when disrespect comes, and it will, remember this. You don't have to clap back to make your point. You don't have to argue to prove you're right. Sometimes the strongest move is walking away with your peace intact and your head held high. Let God handle what you don't need to carry. Let your silence remind them of the line they crossed. There comes a moment in life when you realize your peace is worth more than being understood, when the burden of constantly explaining yourself becomes heavier than the quiet of being misunderstood. In that moment, you must choose. Keep defending your soul to people who don't care to understand, or quietly step back and protect the light God placed in you. Some people don't argue to understand you. They argue to exhaust you. They don't ask questions to hear your answer, but to twist your words, find a weakness, and pull you into a battle you never agreed to fight. And if you're not anchored in something deeper than their opinion, you'll get pulled in every time. You'll spend your days defending your tone, your motives, and your choices, until one day, you can't hear God's voice over the noise of trying to be accepted. That's not what you were made for. You weren't created to beg for basic respect. You weren't called to chase peace that someone else keeps breaking. There's a time to confront, yes, and a time to speak, yes, but there's also a time to walk away. Not in hatred or pride, but in quiet strength, knowing that pouring yourself out to someone who keeps spilling it isn't love, it's self-destruction. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is stop explaining yourself. Stop trying to convince people who refuse to hear. Stop giving your pearls to those who trample them. Not out of bitterness, but because your peace matters. Your joy matters. The anointing on your life matters. And if someone consistently disrespects that, you are allowed to step back. You are allowed to let them go, even if they're family, even if they once meant everything to you. It's not your job to carry the weight of someone else's immaturity. You can't heal a person who doesn't want healing. You can't help someone who only sees you as someone to blame. When they disrespect you again and again, it's not your responsibility to sit them down and beg for basic decency. That's not humility, it's bondage. And you were set free for better things than that. Sometimes the only way to truly love someone is from a distance. To let God do what you cannot. To let the Holy Spirit work where your words have failed. Trying to fix someone who sees you as their enemy will drain even the strongest soul. There is no heavenly reward for enduring emotional abuse just to avoid looking like you gave up. Stepping back doesn't mean you've stopped loving. It means you've started honoring. Honoring the life God gave you. Honoring the boundaries that keep you whole. Honoring the peace that lets you sleep at night. Pray with clarity and love with a full heart. You can't do that when you're constantly tangled in conflict. Always trying to prove your purity to people who have no interest in seeing it. Some people won't hear you until your silence speaks louder than your words. And that's okay. Let them learn through the absence of your explanations. Let them feel the weight of your distance, not to punish, but to show them what they lost when they chose pride over peace, power over respect. Sometimes your distance becomes their wake-up call. This doesn't mean cutting people off at the first sign of disrespect. Grace must go before truth. Forgiveness must walk hand in hand with strength. But if someone repeatedly shows you that your presence is a burden, believe them. Don't let hope trap you in cycles of pain. Don't confuse loyalty with self-abandonment. You can forgive someone and still release them. You can bless them and still walk away. There's a difference between being patient and being a prisoner. God calls us to bear one another's burdens, but never to carry constant dishonor. You can be full of, you can have grace and still say, enough. You can carry the love of Christ and still declare, this relationship is not safe for my spirit. And when you finally release that burden, you'll feel it. The weight lifting, the fog clearing, the quiet that fills your soul. It's not emptiness, it's restoration. It's God reclaiming the space once crowded with chaos. It's the whisper of heaven saying, now I can heal you. So if you're caught in a cycle of disrespect and misunderstanding, stop explaining yourself to those who only want to argue. Protect your peace. Guard your heart. And if necessary, walk away with your dignity intact and your spirit unshaken. Your silence may become the loudest truth they ever hear. There comes a time to rise, not with noise, not with clenched fists, but with the quiet confidence of someone who knows God has seen it all. Every insult whispered behind your back, every harsh word disguised as a joke, every silent betrayal they thought you'd never notice. And still, you held your tongue. You chose restraint over revenge, peace over pettiness, not because you were weak, but because you knew something they didn't. You knew who was watching. God keeps the records people think no one sees. He sees not only the actions, but the intent, pride behind the sarcasm, envy behind the smile, and the restraint in your heart when you had every reason to strike back, but didn't. Make no mistake, He rewards that kind of strength. We live in a world that mistakes loudness for power, where people think winning means shouting the last word. But real power isn't in the volume of your voice. It's in how deeply you can trust God to fight for you. When you choose not to retaliate, when you say, I'm not going to lower myself to match their behavior, you're not letting them win, you're letting God work. And God never forgets the pain they caused, the disrespect they dismissed as harmless, or the way they overlooked your heart. He sees it all. He does not turn a blind eye to injustice, especially when His children are the ones being harmed. But here's the truth. God doesn't just punish, He restores. He lifts. He openly blesses what was broken in secret. The very ones who dishonored you will one day watch Him honor you, not because you sought revenge, but because you trusted Him in the hurt. You didn't curse them, expose them, or make a scene. You took it to the throne, not the crowd. And in doing so, you gave God something He could use, because He can only vindicate what you refuse to avenge. I know it's not easy. It's hard to be kind when others are cruel. It's hard to hold your peace when every part of you wants to speak. But it's in that tension that your character is refined. God doesn't just want to bless you. He wants to build you. And sometimes He allows people to poke at you, misunderstand you, or mock you, not for their sake, but for yours, to develop something unshakable within you. The day will come when those who talk down to you will have to look up to see what God has done in your life. The ones who laughed will live with the echo of your obedience. Not because you rubbed it in, but because you kept your face before God. You didn't rush to defend your name. You let your fruit speak for itself. So when someone disrespects you, whether it's a stranger, a coworker, or your own family, remember this. Your dignity is not determined by their behavior. It's revealed by your response. When you answer with wisdom, grace, and restraint, you set yourself apart. You show the world that your identity isn't rooted in how others treat you, but in who God says you are. There's a kind of strength that can't be taught. It's forged in the fire of silent endurance. It's built when you've cried tears no one saw, when you've swallowed words that could have torn someone down but chose to stay quiet. That's strength. That's victory. That's where the blessing begins. You don't need to shout to be heard, and you don't have to explain yourself to be right. Just keep walking, keep doing good, keep showing up with integrity. Let them gossip, let them lie, let them misunderstand you. Just keep your heart clean. There's no defense more powerful than a life marked by consistent faithfulness. That's the kind of life God honors. And when He honors you, when He opens a door no one can shut, when He lifts you in the presence of those who tried to tear you down, it won't be out of spite. It will be out of love. Love for the one who chose patience over pride, silence over slander, and His will over their approval. So the next time someone disrespects you, don't react, respond. And sometimes the best response is to do nothing more than look up and say, God, you saw that. I leave it with you. That simple act of surrender will speak louder than any argument ever could. Let your silence speak, and let God have the final word. Wishing you health, happiness, and remember to subscribe to my channel, Mindset Daily.